Yo, 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 what's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads out there? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How's all you burners, stoners, and potheads doing? Mrs. Weedman, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
That's great to hear. We had a great weekend. It was beautiful out. Now back, we got some snow here in Chicago, and Mr. Weedman got on the course and threw the disc, played very well. And I'm super stoked because the weather's going to be breaking. I'll be on that course all the time. Hey, I got a quick story, though. Mrs. Weedman and I were very, very baked the other night. And we were going up to bed, and we were walking up the stairs, and I saw a Kleenex box of tissues that I had to bring upstairs. And I said, Mrs. Weedman, we're going to play football. And Mrs. Weedman has thrown a football, but never took a snap from center. So I had to teach her how to take the snap from center. I played the center. Mrs. Weedman played quarterback.
I think he was just trying to get me to grope him. That's really what it comes down to.
I tell you what, we were on the steps, and she got in there real well, and I hiked the Kleenex box into her hands.
I'll have you know, I just kept saying, what are we doing? I don't understand why we're playing football right now. What are we doing?
We were baked. It was fun. And all right, so the first pass, she threw underhand and threw it across her body and almost knocked out a plant and knocked off some pottery that was on the table.
I'm not a very skilled thrower. I forget to release whatever I'm supposed to throw. So
we had to do it again. So we did a second down.
I would have been so mad. Like if all that stuff that the Kleenex box hit broke, my favorite plant, a really cool lamp, and a cute little decorative thing that was on a table. Almost lost all of them.
So we did a second. Everything was okay.
Everything was all right.
Nobody was injured. And we did a second down and 10. Hiked it again. She really got in there this time, like lifted it up in there.
Jeez.
And I hiked that Kleenex box in her hand tight and hard, and I ran up the stairs for a pass, and she threw it, and I caught it, and I jumped on our daughter O-Dog's bed for a touchdown. That was touchdown number 1. First touchdown Mrs. Weedman ever threw.
Woo, up the stairs.
And then we decided to do it again. And it was.
Well, we didn't decide. You decided.
I decided.
Yes,
so
you decided.
Mrs. Weedman took it from center again, and I ran up the stairs. She threw the pass. I caught it, and I dove over the chair for a touchdown again and did my end zone dance for Mrs. Weedman, and it was spectacular. So that was that was our Sunday night going to bed.
I just kept waiting, like, all right, so now what?
That's what happens when you smoke really, really good cannabis and you have a lot of fun doing it. And that's my story of the week. Football in the Mr. and Mrs. Weedman house with a Kleenex box. Mrs. Weedman, did you enjoy going under center?
It was a lesson to learn. Yeah, it was different. I didn't realize that football players really touched each other's anatomy so much.
We're going to smoke
I mean, I know there's a lot of spanking. But
a lot of ass slapping. Good game. Good game.
You, like, feel each other's package.
So we're smoking a strain called
Getting
Biscotti.
to know you.
Very closely. We're smoking a strain called Biscotti that someone gave me a pre-roll of. It's 19.75% THC. It's got limonene, beta-carotene, and linalool in there. I love me some limonene and linalool. This is a great strain. Mrs. Weedman and I went to, on Saturday, we went to the Van Gogh.
Immersive Van Gogh exhibit.
It was great.
It was not an exhibit.
No.
It was cool.
It was very cool.
It was cool. Overpriced, but if you just, like, take it in, I was going to say exhibit. It's not. It's just a thing. It's cool.
It's very cool. It's all of his art being shown on the walls, and it has like it has
it's choreographed music.
Yes. Get very baked and go, because it was a great experience being very, very baked.
The artwork is like on all 4 walls of the room that you're in. Then anything that's obstructive within the room is mirrored, so it doesn't feel like there's any obstructions. And then the artwork even goes across the floor, and it's ever changing. Pieces or sections within the artwork have movement within them, and then there's music choreographed to it. It's cool.
It's touring too, right? It's going.
From city to city.
So it's expensive, but it's a night out.
Something
it was fun to get really, really baked.
It's very COVID friendly.
Yeah, it's very COVID. Everyone was like, they have 6 feet circles that, and you can they serve booze. Speaking of booze, we're drinking our Sauvignon Blanc by Chateau Saint Michel. Cheers.
Cheers.
And so but we smoked outside and then walked in, and I was very baked, and it was a lot of fun. The experience was great. So it was a great weekend. But Mrs. Weeman's going to start off because it is Women's History Month, and we're going to talk about somebody who was a big advocate for cannabis back in the day. From her, I like brownies. You like brownies?
I like brownies.
I love, especially infused brownies.
Yeah.
With a little ice cream on top and a little
Sure.
cushy roll and some marshmallow and all the good stuff. But we're going to talk about Brownie Mary. She's an absolute kick-ass woman who was an advocate for cannabis and for cancer patients. And Mrs. Weedman is going to take it to you. Take it to us, Mrs. Weedman. Tell us about Brownie Mary.
All right. And just so you know, I ate an edible tonight. I had a 5 milligram piece of a chocolate bar. I'm not smoking. So we'll see. I just ate it before we began, so maybe towards the end of our episode recording, it'll kick in.
More joint for me.
Yeah, more joint for Mr. Weedman. So I am going to talk about a cannabis pioneer. She was a self-named pioneer. She called herself Brownie Mary. Her given name was Mary Jane Rathbun. I'm sorry. She was born in 1922, and she passed away in 1999. She was popularly known as the self-named Brownie Mary. She was an American medical cannabis rights activist. As a hospital volunteer at San Francisco General Hospital, she became known for baking and distributing cannabis brownies to AIDS patients. Along with activist Dennis Perron, Rathbun lobbied for the legalization of cannabis for medical use, and she helped pass San Francisco's Proposition P in 1991 and California Proposition 215 in 1996 to achieve those goals. She also contributed to the establishment of the San Francisco Cannabis Buyers Club, the first medical cannabis dispensary in the United States. Rathbun was arrested on 3 occasions, with each arrest bringing increased local, national, and international media attention to the medical cannabis movement. Her grandmotherly appearance generated public sympathy for her cause and undermined attempts by the district attorney's office to prosecute her for possession. The city of San Francisco eventually gave Rathbun permission to distribute cannabis brownies to people with AIDS. Her arrest generated interest in the medical community and motivated researchers to propose one of the first clinical trials to study the effects of cannabinoids in HIV-infected adults. Cannabis has a rich cultural heritage and carries with it stigmas, advocacy, and stereotypes. Most importantly, the plant that continues to provide therapeutic benefits to people across the globe carries with it so many stories of its discovery, its origins, and its pioneers. With the phrase cannabis pioneers is mentioned, when the phrase cannabis pioneers is mentioned, most people likely think of people like Lester Grinspoon. Do you know him?
No.
I don't. We'll have to figure out who he is. Or Jack Herrera. We know who Jack Herrera is.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll hear about them first. But Mary Jane Rathbun, a.k.a. Brownie Mary, had significant impact on medical use marijuana and illustrates enough rebellion to let her be remembered as an outlaw as well as an advocate. Her first of 3 arrests was in her apartment in 1981 when she was raided, but she continued defying the law by baking thousands of buttery cannabis brownies until just before she died in 1999. While headlines at the time painted Brownie Mary as a sweet and sassy grandma giving away pot-infused confections to the sick and dying, the real Rathbun was so much more. She was born December 22nd, 1921, in Minnesota. She left home at the tender age of 13. Holy cow, in 1921, leaving home at 13.
That's crazy.
Wow. Following a single woman, right? Following a violent run-in at school, she struck back at a nun who caned her, wrote the New York Times in 1996. Smart and feisty, Rathbun soon earned a living as a waitress and held down her own apartment in an era when unmarried women did no such thing. She would eventually marry and have a daughter, Peggy, who was later killed in a tragic automobile accident. I read that her daughter was killed by a drunk driver.
Oh.
Yeah, her marriage was short-lived. It wasn't long after Peggy's death that Rathbun began selling pot brownies for profit. A career waitress in her late 50s with no formal education, family, or financial resources, she saw the writing on the wall and sold brownies to build up a retirement fund. After that first arrest back in 1981, she was sentenced to 500 hours of community service, which she fulfilled with the Shanti Project, one of the first AIDS support organizations. The significance of Rathbun's sentence, coinciding with the early days of the AIDS epidemic, cannot be understated. She and her friend Paran, along with other revolutionaries, would continue to promote cannabis advocacy for the next 25 years, and eventually this led to legalization in California in 1996. This was in the midst of the end of the hippie movement, and Mary herself also suffered from a number of painful illnesses, including colon cancer and arthritis. Despite her own health issues, she found herself working as a volunteer at San Francisco's General Hospital during the 1980s and 90s when AIDS and HIV were plaguing a large part of the city's residents. Her job as a waitress at IHOP lasted for more than 25 years.
Damn, she worked at IHOP for 25 years?
Yeah, well, I mean, think. She was 13.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Where was she going to get a job?
Make those pancakes, yo.
Yeah, but her side hustle was baking cannabis-infused brownies. The patients she saw suffering from AIDS found relief from loss of appetite, and cannabis helped to ease the impacts of the still new disease at that time. While living in San Francisco, she lived in public housing, and although she charged some people for the brownies she made, it was only to cover the cost of the ingredients. She considered herself a caretaker of the victims of the AIDS epidemic and the numerous runaway kids in San Francisco at the time, and she was no stranger to the law enforcement community. Selling brownies for profit wasn't Rathbun's goal. She had too many dying kids to save. During her baking heyday, from about 1984 to 1990, it's estimated she made 1,500 brownies a month, funding the ingredients with her paltry Social Security checks, along with cannabis anonymously donated by local dealers. With more requests coming in than she could possibly fulfill, she resorted to pulling names from a cookie jar. Of course, people were dying all of the time. Sometimes you would see her walking on the street just crying for her kids, said her late friend and fellow activist Dennis Perron in the 1999 Toronto Star article. Her final arrest was in 1992 when she was charged with felony transport. The judge knew of her reputation as the grandma who baked pot brownies for sick people and dismissed all charges to try to avoid the public outcry of the advocate community and the scrutiny of the press over the arrest. That same year, Brownie Mary would present to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors about the therapeutic benefits of cannabis as medicine and helped garner public awareness and support of medical marijuana. Rathbun opened the Cannabis Buyers Club alongside Dennis Perron in 1992 and was instrumental in the statewide campaign for Proposition 215 in 1996. The successful voter initiative allowed for the cultivation and possession of cannabis among patients with a physician's recommendation, aka medical cannabis, right?
There you go.
The vote passed with 55% approval in the state and ultimately opened the door for many other states to pass similar initiatives. When Rathbun died in 1999, at the age of 76, she was remembered as a feisty and fitting mother of the medical cannabis movement. Her famous recipe died with her, despite her request to sell to the highest bidder and donate the proceeds to AIDS-related charities. Cannabis pioneers are not in short supply, and they come from all walks of life, including scientists, activists, clinicians, and patients. Brownie Mary's legacy is a true testament to the medical benefits of cannabis, and her desire to take care of her kids is truly inspiring.
That's awesome. I in school, I learned about her, and I did learn who Dennis Perron was. I went and checked back my notes. So Dennis Perron was born in the Bronx. The Bronx, baby, 1945, and moved to San Francisco after serving in Vietnam. American activist and businessman, big top pot supermarketeer from his home, author Proposition W in 1978, which moved forward decriminalizing cannabis, authored Proposition P in 1981 to help legalize Proposition P. Touched by the need to use medical cannabis, passed away in 2018 from cancer. So yes, the two
He
of
was
them
much
together.
younger than her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the two of them worked. I saw there was a video on YouTube that he was getting interviewed about Brownie Mary, and then they had old clips of her talking about cannabis and being an activist and stuff like
Sweet.
that. Yeah, it was the two of them. I'm shocked I didn't remember who he was, but she moved me when I was learning about her in class. So that's why, being this is Women's History Month, I thought it was great for Mrs. Weedman to do the research and talk about her. So
Yeah. And she's super cute. She really just looks like a sweet grandmother
she
in
does.
all of her photos.
13.
I was expecting before I saw a photo of her, I was expecting more of like a hippie persona with long hair
Right.
and tie-dye shirt, kind of the cliche hippie. And she's not. She just looked like she kind of looked like
was
a
a
office secretary or
grandma hippie.
someone that would work in a bank when we were kids.
Yeah,
She was cute.
Yeah, very cute.
But like the judge said, like the public really, really embraced her efforts.
Right.
And so if he tried her, it just would have been a big negative. They knew that she was doing good things.
Right.
So pretty cool.
Brownie Mary, we salute you in Women's History Month. Thank you. Mandating indoor cannabis cultivation is bad for the environment. Legalizing interstate sales and allowing outdoor growing would reduce the cannabis industry's energy consumption. A new study published this week in the journals Nature Sustainability is critical of the U.S. cannabis industry. Significant carbon footprint and contribution to greenhouse gases, GHGs, emissions, and climate change. As one might expect, a study on cannabis and climate change caught the attention of the media. Predictably, too, some headlines writers largely or even entirely missed what I think is the key point of the study. The key point is the word indoors, which appears right in the title of the study, the greenhouse gas emissions of indoor cannabis production in the United States, by three researchers at Colorado State University. Indeed, while the report takes aim at large, energy-intensive indoor warehouse-style cannabis cultivations, it also highlights more sustainable ways to grow cannabis, both outdoors and in greenhouses. Their research shows that the U.S. indoor cannabis cultivation results in a lifestyle greenhouse gas emissions of between 2,283 and 5,184 kilograms of carbon dioxide per kilogram of dried flower. CSU report on the study details. The study looks beyond mere electricity used from indoor cannabis growing operations to highlight holistic data on GHGs from other energy sources such as natural gas, upstream GHG emissions from a production of the use of material inputs, and downstream GHG emission from the handling of waste. Other data that researchers crunched includes water and fertilizer use, heating and air conditioning, grow lights, transportation, CO2 emissions, and sequestrian vent fans, heaters, nutrients, and soil. The energy demands of indoor growing is not exactly breaking news. Commentators have long argued that the cannabis industry can and should adopt more sustainable approaches. A report last year indicated the environment benefits of growing cannabis outdoors, including the fact that it's easier, more effective, uses less electricity, and produces less waste. Why aren't more commercial growers cultivating outdoors? It's because of tangle of federal, state, and local laws make doing so legally impossible in many places. Before cannabis was legalized in a handful of states earlier this century, federal, state, and local bans on cultivating cannabis long forced growers indoors. Indoor growing helped avoid law enforcement, opening new possibilities for innovation and technological advancement, Green Entrepreneur noted last year. At the same time, indoor cultivators realized they could grow cannabis with increased control, vigor, and specificity. But even in those states where cultivating, selling, buying, and using commercial along with medical cannabis is now legal, many growers still raise their plants indoors. In many cases, regulations are to blame. The study authors rightly argue that the high energy consumption of cannabis is due to part of how the product is regulated, citing rules such as some found in Colorado that require grow operations to be securely enclosed and located at or near the point of sale. The initial amendment legalizing recreational cannabis in Colorado required the majority of cannabis product to be sold at a collected retail location, the study notes. The restrictions led to cultivation practices occurring within the city limits of Denver, Colorado. This, along with security, theft, quality concerns, consequentially led to the cultivation of cannabis indoors. Even if growers wanted to venture outdoors, many local governments in densely populated areas like the city of Denver ban outdoor operations, Westworld reported in 2017. In other words, Denver requires cannabis sold in Denver to be grown in Denver, just not outdoors. In some states where cannabis is legal to use, laws discourage more sustainable growing practices. For example, in Washington State, where this journalist lives, cannabis use is legal, but the state law does not allow anyone except licensed commercial growers to cultivate cannabis. Commercial cannabis regulations in other states suffer from these and other shortcomings. Sacramento County, California bans outdoor cultivation. The city of Fresno does too. An ordinance in Huntington Beach, California requires all commercial cannabis grown in the city must be raised in appropriately secured, enclosed, ventilated structures not to be visible to the general public. In 2019, a piece by Forbes writer noted that some current building and energy codes actually force indoor growers to use more energy than necessary. The interplay of state and federal laws also contribute greatly to the problem. Take 3 states that recently legalized cannabis. While New Jersey's climate is conducive to outdoor growing operations, 2 other states, Montana and South Dakota, offer a less hospital growing season. Cannabis Business Daily reported. After the November elections, the federal prohibition of cannabis means that cannabis may not be transported across state lines, and that means that all cannabis that's going to be sold legally in the state must be grown in that state, in a place where the outdoor growing session is short. The prohibition of intense sales needlessly promotes indoor growing. If we treated cannabis like other agricultural products, states like Montana and South Dakota could grow outdoors in the summer and buy from other states in the colder months. I agree. None of this is to say that growing cannabis outdoors is a slam dunk. It carries most of the same risks as any outdoor crop production, including drought, flooding, or other severe weather, pestilence, natural disasters, and theft and other security risks. Outdoor growing may also require an application of additional pesticides. My point, this journalist says, isn't that growing cannabis outdoors is the only way it can or should be done. Rather, growers of cannabis, just like growers of lettuce or beans, should be allowed to choose the place and methods of cultivation they want to use. So, I've been thinking about that a lot because I see how much cannabis is being grown. Canada, there's a 1 mile facility that they're trying to sell right now there. Think how big that is. Yeah. Like 1 mile, 1 square mile.
That's huge.
Indoor. That's a lot.
I was just thinking, like, I guess I didn't think about it being because of federal regulations that people don't grow outdoors. I figured they were growing indoors because it's more controllable and you could grow back-to-back crops. You can stack your plants. You can, they can just maximize the space. But there is definitely a carbon footprint to that and a negative side effect.
Yes.
Could you imagine that? I mean, like, why couldn't they, hypothetically, put like a giant kind of like a prison type fence around their crops? Like, if you wanted to grow outside, okay, well, then we'll do it. It's fine. Give us our restrictions. Give us our rules, how we have to do it. You have to protect the crop. You have to make sure the public can't get access to it. Cool. Let us do it, though.
Right.
I mean, for the people that are in the right climate or the right environment to do it, you would think, oh, and I guess someday it will be. Like, you'll drive through, like when you go along the coast, like Salinas, California, and you see all the artichoke crops and the strawberries growing. Could you imagine if you are driving down, like, what is that, US 1? What is that?
I just want to smell
and
it.
You got weed growing all around you?
Right.
That'd be beautiful.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
I mean, not maybe in the next 5 or 10 years, but it's going to happen. I mean, I support growing. I support cultivation. Hey, that's how I grow myself.
It's got to grow,
home.
Right? We need it.
Right. There's just like anything. There's got to be better ways to, if you're going to grow indoor, to grow it sustainably. Right. Without hurting the carbon footprint. So we're all smart people out there. I'm sure eventually with regulations and stuff like that, people will step in. There will be people in each state talking about this, hopefully, and cultivators will see it and realize that maybe we need to look at this in the longer term, not just for profitability, but for the earth, let's just say. I'm sure it'll happen. I mean, we just got to take a look at ourselves first. First recreational cannabis shop opens in Portland, Maine. Good for you, Portland, Maine. Way to go. Here's a big one. New York lawmakers ready to act on pot, with or without Cuomo. I got to say something funny before I talk about this article. It's been talked about in a lot of articles. You want to know something funny, though? They're basing New York going... I watch cannabis stocks a lot, and they were talking about this the last couple of days. all about New York going recreational and what it's going to do for the cannabis industry and how much now people are investing in cannabis companies because of New York going fully legal. It's really weird. I mean, I know there's a lot of people in New York, but is it going to play that much more into the market? I mean, it's going to, I don't know. Just, I think it was crazy. They've been talking about it the last couple of days. So, New York lawmakers are ready to schedule initial action on legalizing and taxing recreational cannabis instead of waiting to include in its budget. The process that Governor Andrew Cuomo controls, the one with the nipple rings.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's a lot of shit going on in New York with Cuomo. He's under attack.
He's got some problems.
Yeah, he's got some problems right now. So New York's going to go ahead probably without him and do it with or without him. So even though he's for it and they're trying to work stuff out.
Are they medical right now?
Yeah, but they don't have to wait on him because he doesn't control that part of what they can vote for. But they're not worried about the budget. He controls the budget, but they can still vote on the cannabis laws going. And then here's the big one, though. In New York, this lawmaker's bill would allow participating in the state's medical cannabis program to cultivate their own cannabis. That's what Cuomo's proposal was silent on legalizing do-it-yourself growing. As negotiations wind down, lawmakers disagree on the strategy. Fight for being able to
anyone who... Wait, if they go recreational?
Yes.
If you have a medical card, you can grow, or
it just
everyone?
Says lawmakers' bill would allow those participating in the state's medical cannabis program, like here in Illinois. But still,
just the ability
to be able to grow. It doesn't say how many plants you'll be able to grow. There's people fighting it. New York, if you're listening, fight for your right to grow your own cannabis in your home. Little 2-planter, you'll be happy. It's yours. It doesn't take profits from the dispensaries. It doesn't take profit from the cultivators. We've already talked about that. So fight for your right to grow your own cannabis. It doesn't have to be 12 plants. If you just grow 5 or 3, you can sustain yourself. By growing 2 plants, which I'm doing again now, I grew 3 last time, you can sustain yourself. So fight for that right. Tennessee Republicans want to permanently block recreational cannabis through state constitution. Don't do it, Tennessee. Come on, baby. Oh, my goodness, don't do that.
I just can't not sing the Diggable Planet song in my head.
Oh, Tennessee. Every time we say Tennessee. Every time we drive through
Remember
Tennessee.
Wasn't that Diggable Planets?
Yes.
I think it was.
North Cal, city of Hayward, could require half of any future cannabis businesses to be minority owned as part of the overhaul of the industry operates in Hayward. Good for you, North Cal. Good for getting more diversity in the cannabis industry. Now, here's the fucking kicker of this podcast when I talk about the states and what they do. This fucking guy again, this nitwit, this Governor Pete Ricketts from fucking Nebraska. Dude, you are just an awful, awful person. I mean, the governor says this: if you legalize, and I'm going to say the full words, marijuana, you're going to kill your kids.
Oh, jeez.
This is a dangerous drug that will impact our kids. Really, dude?
What
really?
state is this?
This is Nebraska.
Yikes.
Okay? This dude looks like just a fucking crock. I mean, come on, man. This is not, I mean, the government's been trying to put this in our heads forever, and not one person has ever died on cannabis. Okay? Nebraska Governor Pete Ricketts opposes the legalization of medical cannabis in his state and warned parents that the substance will kill your kids.
Oh.
This is a dangerous drug that will impact our kids, the Republican governor said on Wednesday. If you legalize marijuana, you're going to kill your kids. That's what the data shows from around the country. Note, even the CDC says a fatal overdose from cannabis is quite unlikely. So you're lying, Ricketts. You don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I was kind of curious, like, how big is the population? So 1.937 million people live in the entire state.
In Nebraska?
Yeah.
Ricketts held a press conference this week to rail against the bill that would only make cannabis legal if you were recommended by a healthcare practitioner, come in oil form pills or tinctures. Additionally, the legislation would not make smoking cannabis, even in the privacy of a patient's home, legal. Ricketts said the legalization movement is big industry trying to skirt federal regulations at the state level. Big pot, big marijuana is a big industry. this a big industry that's trying not to be regulated, to go around the regulatory process, and that's going to put people at risk when you go around regulations that are designed for the health and safety of our society, the governor said. But Democratic State Senator Anna Wishart, who introduced the bill, called bullshit on the governor, claims on Twitter, writing, "The facts matter."
Geez Louise, how about just put like a few recent articles in front of the guy? When's the last time he read anything about cannabis?
Anna, I'm proud of you.
1970?
Calling bullshit on him. Love it. There are a few things in the world that won't kill you if you do or take too much. The cannabis plant is one of those. Facts matter, Weishart wrote. Another Democratic local lawmaker also took to Twitter, calling what Ricketts said a non-starter. It's really hard to have reasonable conversation with someone like this, State Senator Adam Morfeld tweeted. But Ricketts doesn't seem to have the same concerns about alcohol that he does cannabis. Just 2 days ago, as USA Today pointed out, he endorsed a bill that would make permanent new regulations allowing customers to order alcoholic beverages with the takeout orders. According to the CDC, excessive alcohol use is responsible for more than 95,000 deaths in the United States each year.
Yeah.
Cannabis, 0. Alcohol, 95,000
Yeah,
people.
good luck keeping the alcohol away from minors if you're going to allow it out on delivery.
They call them out.
Kids will work that system so fast.
Yeah, but you won't hear Ricketts yelling about how big takeout is killing our kids. Great article.
Alcohol.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And I've read this article, or I've read this story on 6 different websites and Twitter feeds and on Facebook. I mean, it was all, this guy's getting ripped up.
He sounds like he's unreasonable.
He got written about in Rolling Stone.
Oh.
Not only just High Times, and Rolling Stone wrote about this.
So he's just...
I mean, so many articles about this douchebag. I mean, come on.
Get a clue.
Dude, I don't know who's filling your fucking brain up, but they're certainly filling your ass up with a bunch of shit.
At least he's not telling you to put the cannabis in your butt. Right? When you started reading off the ways that you can consume. I was like, oh no, here we go again.
Yeah, here we go again. Another jerk off from, oh my God. Here's something that could happen in Florida, but they're talking about it and it makes me kind of scared. But prohibitionists want the THC limit laws. Here's why patients and consumers are fighting back. Proposal to cap the amount of THC in cannabis flower and concentrates have been gaining traction in a number of state legislators, and early this week, the idea reached a federal level. Dun, dun, dun. In a report released on Wednesday, the U.S. Senate Caucus on International Narcotics Control recommended looking into THC caps on state legal regulatory products. Politico was the first to break the news of the report, and was led by Senator John Cornyn, Republican of Texas, and Senator Dianne Feinstein, Democrat, California, co-chairs the Senate caucus. Cornyn and Feinstein are longtime opponents of the cannabis legalization. Most cannabis flower in America's legal regulated markets range from 18% to 23% THC. Cannabis concentrates, including vape cartridges, oils, dabbing products, wax, shatter, and distillate, typically contain THC levels of 70 to 90%. Proposals to limit THC levels often aim to cap the allowable THC to 15% or lower.
That's ridiculous.
THC is the main psychoactive ingredient in cannabis, but it's not the only psychoactive cannabinoid. The legal definition of hemp, which cannot go above 0.3% THC, is the fullest expression of THC cap currently in place of the United States. Public safety at issue. Proponents of these THC caps are often the same politicians who stood against legalization and lost. Contended with the limiting THC levels will increase public safety. Pushing back are many cannabis experts and legalization advocates who say THC caps will cause far greater harm by forcing consumers back to the legal market. I agree on that, because they can go where they'll go buy it off the streets where they can get what they want.
Right.
Hey, I'm selling 35% THC. That's all people hear.
Right. Black market will come right back.
They'll crush it.
Well, not that it's gone, but it'll come back heavier, right?
Forcing patients to purchase more. Florida for Care Executive Director Ben Pilara, the legalization advocate who helped lead Florida's successful medical cannabis campaign in 2016, pointed out another problem in a recent published in the Fort Myers News Press. Florida State Senator Ray Rodriguez is campaigning a bill that would impose a limit of 10% THC in all medical cannabis products. Doing so, Pilara wrote, it would effectively force 50% to 150% of tax on patients. Here's how it's explained. The math is pretty simple. THC is one of the chemicals in cannabis, but is far is by far the way the most active one. It is also the one which produces the most strongest medicinal effect for patients. A recent blast text message from one of the major medical marijuana treatment centers in Florida listed 6 different strains smokable cannabis for sale. The lowest THC concentration was over 16%. The highest was just under 26%. That means to achieve the same sort of medicinal effect under these proposed 10 PS, patients would have to spend and smoke 60 to 160% more cannabis.
I think that, like, as we talk about so many times, like once standardization becomes a thing, and then you're more knowledgeable about what you're consuming and what's available to you, it'll just be very clear. Like, here's a very strong strain. It has 80% THC. And so there will just be standards of...
Right.
And then, yeah, but them limiting how much THC can be in a product is ridiculous.
And here's the thing. Paul Armentano, Deputy Director of NORML, has seen a number of different THC caps tried by states over the years. Vermont's adult use law imposes caps on retail products. He wrote in an email to Leafly, 30% for flower, 60% for concentrates. The 30% THC limit on flower approaches the natural limit for any cannabis plant, while the 60% THC limit for concentrates is far below what most concentrates contain. He observed that New Jersey's medical cannabis law was initially enacted years ago with a provision placing a 10% THC cap on cannabis products, but it didn't work. The cap was quickly abandoned and the law was amended. So I was talking about a THC cap limiting patients. So there is a 0 chance to overdose on THC, though. Zero chance. I mean, I've tried, and it doesn't...
You've tried to
I've
overdose?
tried, and it's never happened.
You have not.
I have.
You just want to see how high you can get.
Right, and I know a lot of people out there
get higher
have tried.
That your take, the way that you're saying that you weren't trying to overdose.
No,
you just wanted to see if you could get more high.
Sure. So this is going to be a fight on this for a while. I mean, I've read about this and I've talked about this and with people, and I think on the show, on episodes. So just, if it's in your state and you see this happening, you need to like call your state representative and be like, hell no. It also will hurt innovation. It's going to hurt people coming up with new kind of strains. It also help like patients that need stronger. I mean, I know there's people out there that could take 100 milligram edibles like it's nothing, and it's what the dose they need. You know how much they would have to take if you can only get like,
they couldn't afford it.
Right, exact 100%. You're just gonna, and then people like they said will go back to the black market. So, Amazon sued. You can't pull a job offers over weed testing. Amazon allegedly been retracting job offers from people who use cannabis, and now Jeff Bezos' company is getting sued. There's a new class action lawsuit against Amazon in New York where one guy says he was offered a job one of the company's facilities only to be told he wouldn't be hired after testing positive for weed. And he says more than 100 people could tell a similar story. In a suit obtained by TMZ, Michael Thomas claims he was offered a job sorting packages at Amazon's Staten Island warehouse, contingent on passing the drug test. He says when the results came back positive for cannabis, Amazon told him he wouldn't be hired. Thomas claimed under New York law, an employer can't require drug testing for cannabis except for certain types of jobs. The guy says the job description made no mention of operating machinery or heavy equipment, so he insists Amazon had no right to require weed test. He claims a lot of people there are on the same boat, and he's going after Amazon for damages and injunction blocking the company for continuing this practice. TMZ tried reaching out to Amazon, and Bezos was busy. If you're smoking cannabis at home, you know what I say. If a company says you can't smoke cannabis at work, just respect the company. Smoke cannabis right when you get out of work, on your way home, or when you get home. So, I don't think you should be not hired because you from a job like Amazon or a lot of jobs, except for like heavy machinery. When you're one of those, what are those called? Those when you're building those skyscrapers, those big tall cranes that like.
Well, if you're a heavy machine operator,
right.
you should not be consuming.
Right. That I agree 100% with.
Yeah.
Even driving a forklift or something.
Even driving a car. I mean, come on.
Right. But here's the deal: if you're smoking weed after work or in your own home, you shouldn't not get the job because you smoke cannabis. I'm sorry.
What you do on your time is your time.
100%. Mrs. Weedman is one of the best shoppers I've ever had the privilege and honor to watch do it. Unbelievable. And do you believe in customer loyalty programs, Mrs. Weedman?
Well, I do and I don't. Like, I think they're really just to the benefit of the store because the store can figure out who you are and what your shopping habits are, so then they can predictively fill their store with merchandise that you want. I mean, it's just a way of collecting data on their shoppers.
True.
And I guess the perk of that, they get all the information about you as a shopper, and in return, you get a couple discounts. Like something might be 5 cents off. Woo, big deal. I think they could always do better on the programs, but actually now customer loyalty programs are working their way into cannabis. So, it is kind of a catch-22. They, like, if I get to the checkout at the grocery store and they want my customer loyalty number, and the customer loyalty number gives me the sales stickers that are on the shelves in the store, that's fine. But if you are also giving me, like, sending coupons to my house, those coupons should just be in my customer loyalty number. Like, why do I have to bring this stupid piece of paper in, and why do we have to waste paper? But they don't want to do that because then they're, like, guaranteeing that every customer is going to use their coupons. So really, in the big picture of things, it really benefits them, not the consumer. But it makes us feel good, right? Because we get a little initiative.
Oh, perkity perk,
Yeah.
perk.
So loyalty programs in this article, it says, are a long staple of consumer marketing strategies, and they have found a place among regulated cannabis retailers in the United States and Canada. By offering perks such as discounts, points, special offers, and new product notifications, retail operators say loyalty programs can be a useful tool. Offering those perks isn't free, but loyalty program operators say the benefits can easily outweigh the costs. Recent figures provided by Seattle-based cannabis analytics firm Headset illustrated how loyalty programs can drive shopping habits. Roughly 50% of cannabis stores in Washington state appear to use loyalty programs, according to Headset data analyst Cooper Ashley. Over a 90-day period, the average basket spend among retailers with loyalty programs was $37.18, which was 13% larger than the average spend at retailers without the program.
Damn.
So they're selling more product, right?
Yeah.
But the loyalty program baskets also had more items per basket and slightly higher priced items. There's a pretty significant advantage to having a loyalty program, Ashley said. Your customers tend to have larger transactions. Benefit to the dispensary. In Planet 13's loyalty member program, that's the big dispensary in Las Vegas, the program is also accessible to out-of-state shoppers, with extra benefits for Nevada residents, though. All loyalty program participants get text message notifications about daily deals and accrue reward points with purchases. But Nevadans also get 20% discount off of regularly priced items and special promotional prices, such as $25 eighths of select cannabis flowers.
You get text messages from Nevada.
Yeah.
I signed up,
I'm
and
going there
every
one
day
time.
I get like a text message, 20% off for being a loyal customer. Same thing with Michigan.
That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good, right?
Yeah, they do deals all the time.
Yeah. Only loyalty members get access to Planet 13's promotions, such as daily deals. But, says David Ferris, Planet 13's Vice President of Sales and Marketing, they do get a ton of people signing up. And they just really want to partake in the daily deals or the ongoing programs. The benefits of the loyalty programs are obvious enough that it doesn't take much convincing to get customers to sign up. High Tide, which is a major Canadian cannabis retail chain with store brands that include Canna Cabana, operates a loyalty program called Cabana Club. Chief Revenue Officer Andy Palalis said Canadian restrictions on using inducements to sell cannabis prevent High Tide from offering certain kinds of loyalty perks. We cannot, for example, say, hey, if you buy a certain amount of cannabis, you're able to receive this extra amount of cannabis at a better price. Nor can we incentivize that through points, he said. But other loyalty perks, such as a 5% discount off the regularly priced products, are within bounds for High Tide. Palalis said that simple discounts help drive in-store loyalty program signups. There's no accumulation of points, waiting until your next visit, none of that. It's today, you take 5% off if you sign up for the club. And we find a lot of customers respond pretty well to that. However, the loyalty program's critical purpose is greater communication with our customers, Palalis said. There are many new products that are coming out every day, and promotional activity is something that is challenging to telegraph out to customers outside of the designated channel with them. Cabana Club reaches customers via text message about 1 or 2 times per week. And it really, they can't advertise, right? So I guess it is kind of critical for them to be able to tell people what's going on in the store.
Yeah.
In a quarterly filing earlier this week, High Tide said its loyalty program members spend on average 20% more than non-members. In general, they spend more and they visit more frequently. Of course, it costs more money to give customer discounts or points towards future purchases. During the quarter end, September 30th, for example, Planet 13's discounts and loyalty points accruals were worth $1.3 million against their total revenue of $24 million.
Damn.
So it cost them, not much in the big picture of things, right?
I mean, but drawing more business.
Right. So give a little, get a lot.
Yeah.
Right? Despite the cost, Planet 13's Ferris considers loyalty programs a mandatory part of operating a business. High Tide's Palalis offered a similar perspective. For up-and-coming retailers, Palalis recommends launching a loyalty program right off the bat. Figuring out what you're willing to provide to the customer as a benefit in order to earn their trust so that you can communicate with them for the long term is one of the first decisions you should make, he said. As a new retailer, focusing on who your customer is and learning about them and figuring out how best you can serve them, that's the only thing you're in business to do. So, pretty cool.
I like him. I mean, like I said, my dispensary, I get emails about sales going on all the time.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Before you were growing, you would take a ride to
Yeah.
the dispensary if you knew a special promotion was going
course, all
on.
the
You'd want to
time.
get there before
Yeah.
stuff was gone.
Yeah, because they would give away stuff you probably maybe not have tried
Right.
and had it on sale. But the whole thing is though, I would always buy like 1 thing or 2 things on sale, then I'd still walk out with like 2 or 3 or 4 other things too.
Right.
So I got some sale stuff and I got some regular price stuff, and I mean I enjoyed going to the dispensary, especially that first 2 years. It was like a kid in a candy
So
store.
it's a win-win.
Yeah,
You felt
absolutely.
like you got a deal on some things in the
Yes.
dispensary.
They used
got
to do
a bigger
something
sale.
really cool though. They used to give you, if you spent so much money, you get 10% off too. They had to stop doing
And they had that wheel. That
The
you
Wheel
used to
of
spin.
Fortune was the shit.
Yeah, you get like $10 off
and
your
then the
order.
state of Illinois stopped that too.
Oh, because
So
you were incentivizing.
it was such a bummer because it was so cool to be
Yeah.
able to do that. It made you excited. I always liked the dice
you get
game.
like swag.
Like you rolled the wheel and it said
got to-
roll the wheel, make a deal. And then I would go the dice because I would hit the dice one. And then whatever you rolled, that was the percentage off. And I would always, So
Were the dice like 1, 2, and 3?
yeah, no, it actually was a full set. So
you could get like
yeah.
60% off?
You can get 24% off.
Huh?
You can get 20. You can get 12% off. Sorry, 2 dice. So it was double 6. You've got double 6. You get 12% off.
I'm sorry. I was
Yeah.
thinking like 6, like
Yeah.
60.
Yeah, I mean, all crazy there. No,
Sorry.
they would go broke. No,
I know, right?
You had me confused.
Oh, so
So if you rolled the dice and say if you got
I got you.
double ones, you get 2% off.
Oh, I was
So,
like, oh, yeah.
you can get up to 12.
I was thinking in tens,
No, I got you. I
not
feel
singles.
You. No,
One die.
So, but it was cool. I enjoyed it. So they should let cannabis stores, dispensaries do that. It's kind of fun. It brings a little excitement to the when you're buying and spending money. Cannabis is going global at a rapid pace. Here's our international news for the week. And Cureleaf, British American Tobacco are investing abroad. Mexico legalization push. Multi-firms heading down there. That can be seen in the deal announced by Cureleaf Holdings, the largest U.S. cannabis company that aims to turn Europe into a launch pad for international growth. Or take a look at British American Tobacco, new stake in Canadian cannabis company, Organogram Holdings. Sorry, I'm baked.
That was a tough one.
Yeah, that
it
was a tough one.
Organogram.
Organogram.
Right?
Thank you. Yes.
Right. I had to think about it.
That a girl.
We got it.
Appreciate
We got
you.
it.
Thanks for having my back as always.
Start that over. What were we even talking about?
Start what over the whole thing?
No, just that topic.
Oh,
Organogram.
Organogram Holdings, and along with Cureleaf, British American Tobacco all investing over abroad.
Oh,
and
thank
then
you.
there's a bill passed last week. And did the edible kick in?
I guess so. I was so focused on that word that I forgot what we were talking about.
And there's a bill passed last week in Mexico that can make recreational cannabis legal, which it is. Together, developments show the global receptives to cannabis is accelerating. Consider how rapidly Mexico's stance has changed. So more and more companies are going overseas, going to make some money. It's going to be good. Super excited about... Here's what you need to know. Curaleaf announced the fourth quarter earnings that topped estimates the same day it received plans for about $285 million. Cannabis Growth Corp announced it would cut 135 jobs and may close a facility in Denmark. British American Tobacco's new 20% state, and how do you pronounce that word again? Orangutan.
Organogram.
Orangutan.
Yes.
Is worth $1.75 million, and cannabis stocks rose after Mexico's vote to liberalize cannabis. New York lawmakers are ready to schedule action on legalizing and taxing recreational cannabis rather than waiting to include, like I told you about nipple rings, Andrew Cuomo. Tuesday's events, Columbia Care reports fourth quarter earnings before the market opens. Village Farms International reports fourth quarter earnings before the market opens. And then Green Thumb Industries report fourth quarter earnings also. So lots of stuff going on here in the States and overseas with a lot of companies. Here's a really big one. Mexico passes cannabis legalization bill. They passed it on. This came out on March 11th.
For everything?
Everything. Fully, the whole country, just like Canada.
Even at a federal level?
The whole thing.
Like, it's just...
Yes. There's probably a lot of laws I'm not reading.
They passed a bill. They passed it or they presented it?
It's all passed.
It's done.
Done.
Mexico.
Viva la Mexico.
The entire country of
Viva
Mexico.
la Mexico. Viva la Mexico.
Kicked our butts. They're
Kicked
done.
our butts.
They're legal.
They're taking it over. Lawmakers in the Mexico's Chamber of Deputies approved a bill on Wednesday to legalize the production, distribution, possession of adult-use cannabis nationwide. Man, Cancun's going to be fucking wild.
Yeah.
The New York Times, where's that place everyone goes now?
Tulum. That's like the hot spot right now.
The bill was approved in general terms on 3/16/129 vote, according to the report. Hey, 3/16. Today is 3/16. Like that. The bill moves next back to the Senate, and it passed there with President Andres Mario Lopez Obrador, who is expecting to sign the bill into law. The legalization bill would let adults legally possess up to 28 grams of cannabis and grow 6 plants at home. Viva la Mexico. Viva la Mexico. Hell yeah. Grow 6 plants at home. The age requirements for purchasing...
Are we moving?
Tulum, here we come. And consuming cannabis, as well as pursuing a cannabis business license, will be set at 18. Wow. Dope. 18. Medical cannabis... Viva la Mexico. Medical cannabis in Mexico will regulate separately by the Ministry of Health. Today, in a historic moment, with this, the false belief that cannabis is part of Mexico's serious public health problems is left behind, Chamber Deputies member Simi Oliveira via The Times. Mexico Senate approved the version of the bill. Notably, a November poll found that the move was not exactly seen popular among Mexico's residents, with 58% of respondents saying that they oppose legalizing cannabis, according to the report. Even cannabis advocates have criticized the government's plan for not doing enough in terms of social equity and removing some of the stigmas around cannabis. Break that stigma. Home growers, for example, were required to register with the government. Ew. January report found that Mexico's legal cannabis market could be well worth over $840 million.
Oh, I would have thought they'd be in the billions.
I'm sure it will, but this might just be talking about the first year.
Right.
Once Mexico's legalization takes effect, the United States will be the last holdout of cannabis prohibition in North America. I'm so mad right now. Go Mexico, though. Mm-hmm. Love you. I can't wait to come visit you down there. Smoke some of your homegrown.
So now when you go to like an all-inclusive in Mexico, like do you get champagne in your room when you show up and a joint?
That'd be
could you imagine?
Whatever cannabis company down there that sponsors that hotels.
And a joint.
Oh my God, that'd be great.
That'd be amazing.
That'd be awesome.
Or good cold Dos Equis on the beach.
I've never been to Mexico, but I can't wait to go.
All the more reason.
All the more reason. Colombia joins international cannabis market. Colombia is a country that's been at the forefront of drug marketeers for quite some time. I want me some of that cocaine. In today's world, cannabis, you can choose the THC you'd like the most. There's Delta 9, which is a standard THC, and then there's Delta 8, and the versions that Colombia is going to be kicking ass and taking names at. Cannabis in Colombia. Colombia has been one of the most taxed countries when it comes to cannabis use, probably because the country has had so many drug issues and drug violence that it has made laws specifically to try to combat these issues. One of them was to decriminalize most drugs in 1994. The decriminalization wasn't precise, and it should have been. And in 2012, a specification was made to clarify just how much a person could have for personal use. Medical cannabis in Colombia. In 2015, Colombia President Juan Miguel Santos signed a law legalizing medical cannabis, and in 2016, Colombia's Congress passed the 1787. Commercial sales internationally. Now they're going global. Oh my goodness! As good as what they can grow down there, their cannabis is probably friggin' fantastic. They're going to be growing the industry. So just in conclusion, besides the new bill, exportation of dry flower, Colombia has also recently visited ideas of both legalizing a recreational market for cannabis as well as other things in that country. For now, however, Colombia will continue working to expand its growing medical cannabis market. Good for you, Colombia. Just another great crop. So growing cannabis at home has been, as you know, has been my zen this in 2020 and going into 2021. And it's booming around the world right now. And I see a lot of home grow. I follow on different groups. Home grower is one of my favorite. And you can see how many people are starting to pick it up now. It's incredible. And watching people's tents and some people who have just started out, I'm highly, highly impressed with what you're doing. And this is not just in the United States. I follow people around the world and watching what they're doing in their little grow rooms and their little tents and just all of it. Whether, I'm proud of you. It's been great. I've seen some great stuff from friends out in the UK, from Australia to Mexico to Canada, all around the United States, South America, Africa. I follow people all over the place, especially growers, and I think it's absolutely awesome what I'm seeing out there. Keep on growing and fight for that home grow, because you just got to keep up with cannabis. There's new findings every day that you grow your own, and you can find out what your terpenes are in, and if you have ailments, you can grow specific strains for that ailment. I just gave a buddy of mine some tips on he was looking for a certain strain. I gave him some other strains that have that THCV in it. So and he's a home grower. So just think about it when you're growing. It's great stuff. So keep on growing that weed around the world. What is the future of weed, Mrs. Weedman?
It's so many things.
So many things. So many?
It's exciting.
Tell me all
That's number
about
one. It's super exciting, and I can't wait to watch it all unfold. But in this recent article at Inside Hook, Eli London looks at the future of weed, and he gives his 12 bold predictions on the next decade of consumer cannabis. So, according to Eli London, the sales of legal cannabis are projected to reach somewhere in the realm of $35 billion in the next 5 years. I believe he's speaking just of the U.S. market. The actual economic impact of that market could hit $130 billion in that same time frame. Cannabis startups are cropping up like they were being founded in hydroponic soil and bathed in UV light. Dozens of cannabis companies, mostly based in Canada, since it's not federally legal in the U.S., are already available for trading in American markets. Cannabis is fully legal in 15 states, as well as D.C., and at least somewhat legal in all but 3 states. The green wave is coming. In my financial news consumption, this is Eli speaking, I hear about cannabis stocks on a nearly daily basis. In my political reading, I'm constantly reminded of the state versus federal debate that underpins policy and legalization. And in keeping up with social justice issues, I'm constantly reminded of the ugly and devastating impact that marijuana and the war on drugs has had on the Black and brown communities across the country. I figured it would be best to talk to experts, founders, investors, lobbyists, organizers, and more from across the cannabis landscape to get their thoughts directly. I asked them broad questions about what the next decade of consumer cannabis would look like, and from their answers, I was able to parse together 12 predictions for what the next 10 years hold. It is by no means a gospel, but I hope that it will give you thoughtful insight into a developing sector of the American economy that is only destined to keep growing. After all, that's what plants do. So, number 1, getting stoned out of your gourd will no longer be the goal. I think we already are seeing that.
All right. Hold on.
What?
I don't mean to interrupt. Every once in a while, you just got to get fucking stoned out of your gourd.
It's fun.
It is.
Every once in a while.
I mean, I'm not saying that there's going to be a lot of people getting involved. They're not looking to get stoned out of their gourd. But it is fucking
There's
fun.
a place for it.
There is.
There's a time and a place for it.
Go ahead. I want to hear his opinion on it. But Mr. Weedman here is still going to get fucking stoned out of my gourd.
Well, you already said earlier that you want to OD on it.
Yeah. So.
Not technically, but how high can I get? You like that challenge.
I do.
Yeah.
I accept your challenge.
So again, Eli was interviewing many, big people in the business, right? All different genres of the field. And so each of these things that these points that predictions that he made, he has a little quote from somebody within the field. So this quote is from Jake Bullock, co-founder of Cann, C-A-N-N, a cannabis company. And he says microdose products will not only become more popular, they will be the norm. Products with a mild dose of THC are the most appealing to mainstream consumers that are open to cannabis but have not tried ever or have not tried recently. They care about feeling in control, having consistent experiences that are turnkey, energizing, and social. Watch out for more and more microdose THC products across all product categories.
No, it's not true. I want to see, and I know I'm probably going to get chastised and hung up. I want like a 3 or 4 or 5% joint that I could smoke during the day.
So you could smoke the whole joint.
That I smoke the whole joint, but not even just that, because I've had problems with nicotine my whole life. And I could probably go back to smoking cigs like it's nothing,
So you could like microdose.
I'd rather smoke a joint that's like 2-3%. That's only going to get me like, I'd rather smoke that than a cigarette. And I'm not saying that's ever going to happen but I'd like to see it, that I can grow like a 5%. I think 5% just to smoke a whole joint at 5%, like you're smoking a cig, would make me happy. It would.
Literally.
Instead of microdosing, because here's the thing. Instead of microdosing edibles, which are great, and tinctures and all that stuff, give me a 5% joint. Go back to what the 60s weed was.
Right, where you could smoke a whole joint
8%,
by
9%,
right?
6%. Yeah. Give me some of that session weed, let's call it.
All right. Number 2, we're talking about the future of cannabis in the next decade. Number 2, we will stop thinking about weed in terms of indica and sativa. And we've talked about this before. Yeah. So, according to Max Spoler, co-founder of Artet, as more research is funded, we see the supremacy of the indica-sativa dichotomy being challenged. Research suggests that looking at cannabis strictly through this framework might not serve our understanding in the way it is marketed to us. So we know that. We know things are changing there. Third is THC and CBD are only part of the equation. Another thing we talk about often. Jim Baudino, partner at Sands Lane Holdings, says consumers will continue to become more knowledgeable about the benefits of cannabis and its various compounds beyond just THC and CBD, including terpenes and cannabinoids like CBN and CBG. They will also understand how cannabis can fit into their daily routines, along with other supplements and health products. Yep. I'm with you.
I can't wait to see the day when all the cannabinoids, like their strains,
are
labeled out on there, and you can see the CBN, all of them, CBG, THCV, and you label them all. I can't wait. It's gonna be dope.
Number 4, the stigma of weed or being a weed smoker will all but disappear. Woohoo! That's our agenda here.
Yep, break that stigma, yo.
That's our agenda here, is stomping out the stigma. If 2020, this is Handa, and I didn't have time to look up. I should have. Handa, I don't know who that is or if it's a company. But this person said, if 2020 had one silver lining, it was the progress made in the cannabis industry nationally. Consumers are more open-minded than ever and are taking active steps to destigmatize this glorious plant. Yes, I agree. Number 5, cannabis won't continue to be regulated to cannabis-only locations. Woo! So
That's going to be great.
Yep, this is Zach Spoler again, co-founder of ArtTet. He says cannabis consumption will move on premise, and the hospitality industry will play a big role.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it will. In the next decade, it's very possible you'll be able to enjoy cannabis cocktails at the same venue you might have considered ordering a Negroni or a bottle of wine. We're already seeing this play out in the non-alcoholic drink movement. It's only natural that it will extend into cannabis as regulatory frameworks make way for the food and beverage industry to participate. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
6, we will see major brand segmentation. This is Xander Shepard, co-founder of ArtTet, same company. We're already seeing consumers shifting their thinking away from simply THC percentage or potency in milligrams to a broader, broader thinking, right? One around the interaction of how different cannabinoids present in a given product or extraction processes can dictate the type of experience that they can expect, as like pain relief, deep relaxation, social consumption, etc. So that's cool. 7, things will still progress at a local level. According to Bridget Hennessy, vice president of I don't know what, or maybe the company is called VP. Right now, 1 in 3 Americans live in an adult use state.
She's the VP of Government Relations, Weed Maps.
Oh, that's cool. Weed Maps is an app where you can locate legal cannabis, and you can see reviews on cannabis made by other users.
Yep.
Right. Right now, 1 in 3 Americans live in an adult use state. In a few short years, we could see legal cannabis in every single state, while still illegal at the federal level. Local is an important word in the cannabis lexicon, supporting the people who started this industry, many of whom went to jail for doing so, along with the communities and the neighborhoods decimated by the failed war on drugs, is more than a trend. It's the foundation of the entire industry. Totally agree. 8, the cannabis industry will come to look like just about every other industry. And again, this is Hennessy speaking. She said this may sound counterintuitive. The more people interact with cannabis, the more they are comfortable with it. And the more critics, skeptics, opponents realize the sky doesn't fall when cannabis is legalized, then the more cannabis policy that will change. Over time, the cannabis industry will infuse itself into the mainstream business community. And we'll need to take a hard look at the misguided policies, like restrictive zoning ordinances and unreasonable tax rates that were developed in reaction to propagandist misinformation, and we need to correct them.
I like her.
Yeah.
She's got some good stuff.
9, you will know much, much more about what you put in your body. This is Baudino. We heard from him a little earlier. And he said, with continued research and testing, cannabis brands will better be able to identify and develop specific formulations that allow for more precise responses for consumers. Whether it is reduced anxiety or improved sleep, brands will more effectively leverage cannabis compounds along with other nutrients to provide an enhanced consumer experience.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this, the effects, what we're going to want. I like to know the effects,
right?
And knowing that what it helps and what it targets. And that's what needs to be on a lot of these, especially for medical,
right?
It should, like those QR codes, exactly you pinpoint what it is. So,
yep. Number 10, get that cooler full of weed drinks ready.
What?
Yep. According to Baudino, I predict that cannabis-infused beverages will become one of the top consumption methods for cannabis. While there are many hurdles to overcome, including complexity of distribution, limited retail options, and FDA regulations, if you look at where alcohol is currently distributed and realize that cannabis-infused beverages can be a viable alternative, the opportunities are significant. There are many companies who have a big bet on its success. And number 11, this comes from Friedman. And Friedman says, I think cannabis will become a major force in the health and wellness category over the next decade, as more knowledge is gained about the power of the hundreds of cannabinoids and terpenes within the plant, I expect cannabis to help individuals deal with a wide variety of health and wellness issues. We have only begun to scratch the surface, but the medical cannabis market will no longer exist. Cannabis will either be sold recreationally, as a pharmaceutical drug, or as a health and wellness product. I see that. And finally, we have 12. This is the 12th prediction for the next 10 years of cannabis. Number 12 says, the racist indiscretions and wrongdoings of America's drug policies will need to be addressed. This should be number 1. But he's not, these aren't in order of importance.
Save the best for last.
Yeah. And this is Marlee. Marlee, I don't know if that is a last name. I'm assuming it is. Marlee said, cannabis companies will no longer get rich without giving back to communities that were impacted by the war on drugs. We're seeing small groups created to oust big, giant cannabis corporations looking to only cash in. Rightfully so. Honestly, I don't think any brand will be successful without some consumer compassion.
100%.
Boom. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like
Pretty
that.
neat.
Actually, a lot of those I agree with. You know, a lot of it's happening now. You know, slowly.
It's like the rollout
Right.
of a lot of it, right?
Yep. Chicago cannabis firm gets accused of drug trafficking in the RICO case. Ooh. Verano Holdings seems to be in hot water regarding federal charges. Oof. A cannabis lawsuit has been made its way all the way to the federal proceedings this month, as Verano Holdings, based in Chicago, is being accused of violating and racketeer influence and corrupt organization RICO Act by trafficking cannabis. The charges are based on the fact that Verano Holdings are being accused of smuggling cannabis from Illinois to Arkansas as part of their business plan. The lawsuit claims that Verano planned to open up a dispensary in Arkansas along with Harvest Wealth of Arizona and Natural State Wellness Enterprise in Arkansas. Former employee of Harvest Health, Nicholas Nielsen, is claiming that he was told to go to Illinois to get cannabis clippings that would help start the new business. In June 2019, the manager went to the Verano facility in Illinois and artfully took clippings from Verano cannabis and secreted them them in Whole Food salad containers.
They stashed it.
It was
weed.
Yeah,
they
it was
stashed
cloned.
it
Basically,
in,
they were taking clones.
and they were tucking it in with lettuce.
No, they just took the food salad. The containers.
Are you high?
Yeah, I'm very high. The containers with Whole Food salad in there, and this is what the lawsuit claims.
Oh,
So it was
like
mixed
the
in.
salad bar containers.
Yes.
Okay, and they filled it with weed.
Yes, and
Okay.
salad on top of it because they were taking their clones.
Right.
So over to Arkansas.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Oops.
yeah.
So for anyone that doesn't know, just because one state has a company manufacturing and it's a legal state and they're doing everything legally, and they may do business in a state that's got an illegal state in between it. So you're going from one legal state to another legal state, but it requires you driving through a state that's not legal. You can't do it. And that's what they were doing.
Right. So he got on a plane, commercial flight from Chicago. First mistake. That's against the law because now you're federal air. To Memphis, Tennessee, where it's illegal. Okay, in Tennessee, where he rented a car and drove the Verano cannabis.
Oh, geez. So he flew and he drove?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
It's a Nielsen. It's a Nielsen.
Did the company know he was doing this?
Yes. Yeah, they told him to basically go from Chicago down, drive these clippings down.
That's terrible.
Because they can start their grow opt because they own dispensaries and cultivation centers in Arkansas.
I understand, but
So defendants faced a problem. They could now grow cannabis, but how would they obtain the cannabis in the new state to grow it? The officials' complaint continues. It's a chicken or egg problem that every licensed cannabis cultivator faces. They can grow cannabis, but have no means to obtain the new plant materials that does not violate both state and federal law.
can't they just send seed?
But it's still, it's not.
I thought you can order seed through the mail.
Can, but
Technically, you can't.
I guess is what it's saying.
So here was my thing. Like, I was talking to someone about this the other day. Like, okay, so Illinois is legal, and hypothetically, my friend's cottage is in Michigan. I want to go to my friend's cottage in Michigan, and I want to bring some joints with for the weekend. But I've got to drive through like a 10-mile section of Indiana before I get to Michigan. Well, if I get caught with the weed in Indiana, I'm going to get severely busted because Indiana
And you
is
will not
like
be able. You will not be able to pass.
really rigid about
You won't
it.
be pass and go. You'll just go straight to jail
Right,
in Indiana.
right. So that person that I was having this conversation with said, well, okay, put this up like on a company level. So company has a dispensary and a cultivation state set up here in Illinois, and they've got a setup in Michigan, or they have a setup in Colorado. If they put all of their stuff, say they're leaving Chicago and they want to go to Colorado, they put all their stuff in like a big box truck, and the big box truck has a lock on it, and the only person that has the combination when they leave Chicago is the person at the other end in Colorado. So that thing is almost like in a super secure. Think of it like a Brinks truck, right? Nobody can open it until you get to the other end. Not even a cop that pulls you over. So, is it still illegal?
You cross state lines.
I know. But I mean, if it's totally secure, why can't they figure out?
Because it's federally illegal and it's illegal to cross state lines. That's why you need we need Congress and the Senate and the president to fix this, so we can
even if they can get some sort of law passed to allow that. Like,
right. So Verano's they're in a lot of trouble right now. Their stock dropped huge because of this.
People are afraid.
Well, it's just they got their
They'll come back.
I mean, it's going to be a federal lawsuit though, a federal case. So kind of crazy. Jay-Z's ad campaign challenges cannabis regulations. Jay-Z started his own brand, as we read a little bit ago, a few episodes ago. But Sean Jay-Z Carter and his cannabis brand Monogram this weekend announced the launch of the nationwide awareness campaign that focuses on hypocrisy of current cannabis regulations throughout the United States. The Monogram brand debuted in December of 2020. Monogram is currently running the campaign in Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and Miami. The company has plans to expand to additional cities by the end of March. The shock value campaign, factual headlines to provide perspective of cannabis. I'll read one for you. Weed is a federal crime, reads one of the ads, even if in the states where sex with farm animals isn't. You can marry your cousin in more states than you could buy recreational cannabis. Behind each of the 8 headlines are images of individuals who have changed their cannabis-related offenses. Additionally, Monogram will release video testimonials from each of the 8 individuals sharing their firsthand experience with inequitable punishment for cannabis offenses in the United States. Monogram will present the videos via YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and the company website. Monogram says its campaign showcases the lack of progress made since the war on drugs began decades ago and outsized consequences that continue to affect the victims. Jay-Z says the cannabis laws are outdated, disproportionately cruel, and punishing compared to the rest of the legal code. They're going to be moving forward and aims to shed light on regulations by just opposing with the more decisive realities, depraved vices, or dangerous transgressions. Far too often we forget that we are real people whose everyday lives and futures have been affected by the outdated legislature, says Carter. People like Brian Rohn, who can no longer pursue a career in sales because of cannabis-related conviction in 2003. Monogram says the campaign imagery of real people negatively impacted the war on drugs, underscores the fact that there is still significant work to repair past injustices. So good for you, Jay-Z and Monogram. Keep on fighting the good fight. Man, that was a good joint. That's pretty baked. How's that edible for you?
It's good. It kicked in. It's
nice.
Subtle, but it's there.
That's it.
It's good.
That's what you like. A little subtle. Mrs. Weeman, you got anything else to say?
No.
No? You're all
No.
good?
That's it.
I'm going to have another glass of wine, though, after this.
I think so.
Yeah, and probably smoke some more of that biscotti. Because
Maybe I'll have another edible.
there you go. Well, hey, everybody. We want to thank you for listening. I'm pretty baked. We appreciate you. Man, spring's coming around the corner. Daylight savings just hit. Whacked me for a day or two, though. That what is it, daylight savings, right? No, it's spring ahead, right?
Spring ahead.
Yeah, that hour kind of messed me up for a couple of days. I had to get extra baked to go to sleep. But hey, everyone, we love you all. Thanks for listening as always. Please check us out on our Instagram at WeMan420 Chronicles, our Twitter, WeMan420Pod. Send us an email at WeMan420Chronicles@gmail.com if you have anything. And we love you all. Thank you for listening. As Paulie always says, smoke smart, puff puffing away.
Puff, puff, pass.